YouTube, welcome to our first helpful guide for the creative map mode in Splitgate. I'm going to try and get a few of these out over the next week with a couple helpful tips and tricks I've learned just experimenting in the creative map mode. If this helps you in any way, remember to hit the like button. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow our community. I appreciate it. You'll be caught up when we get the rest of these out. First thing we're going to talk about today is how to build some of the basic tools you can use to help line things up. All right, let's start with the very basics. You'll load into this nice map. And I'm not going to go in so much into what buttons to hit because obviously everybody's going to be a little bit different, whether you're on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Okay? Or we're just going to use the toggle build mode key, and it'll pull up this nice key on the right side of your screen and get you into the build mode where you can kind of zip around. And I think one of the first things that you want to look at is the toggle build menu. So when you open up the toggle build menu, you're going to see we have two options, the objects and the tools. We're going to stick on objects for the time being. Okay? When you open up the objects menu, you're going to see we have two options there, gameplay and objects. And I think as far as map design, everybody's going to be using objects to start with. We'll just open up blocks and use a basic block, okay? Now, first things first, we want to make sure this block's on the ground, okay? We don't want it to be under the map. We don't want it to be too high or hanging off the ground. We're just going to use our drop to floor key. All right, so you'll look in the key on your right side, whatever that button is for you, you're just going to press it, boom, drops the object straight to the floor. Then you can move it from there wherever you'd like. Again, if you want to speed up, you're going to use the increase movement key speed. Then if you want to decrease movement, you can decrease it, okay? And that's not too bad. You can see on the very bottom of the key that you get the interact movement speed, so you can kind of get an idea of how fast you can go with the object, all right? And when you've got it in the place you want it, you'll just click off of it or de-highlight it, deselect it, however you want to put it. And there it is, pretty stationary. If I wanted to build a second block just like this one, I could do two things, okay? First thing is I could open up the toggle build menu, go to objects, select the exact same block, and then place it. So we will decrease the movement speed down to 1, and we'll place it right next to it. Okay? And it doesn't matter if we're right on. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of magnetism. It's what I've noticed. Sometimes you won't. Okay, so we'll deselect it. The other way you can do this is you can use the spawn previous key when highlighting it. When you spawn previous, and this might take it and put it underneath the map or over the map. It kind of depends on where you are. So we'll just raise it up, drop it back down to the ground, and then we'll place it right next to our block. And again, sometimes we'll get a little bit of magnetism, sometimes we won't. Okay. The big thing here, you can see we've got 3 blocks, but we wanted them to be touching, all right? All right, I'll bump that movement speed down for you guys. So the easiest way to do this that I've found is not quite to just place, because you can see we're not quite getting it, right? The easiest way to do this is going to be, or at least the most precise way to do this, is going to be to open up the toggle build menu again and go under tools, okay? Go under tools and go to movement, all right? And you'll see we have 4 options. We have movement snap, move X depth, move Y height, move Z width, okay? And what we can do here, we have this open. I'm going to move it this way just so we can see it. We can use these arrows. You'll see we can kind of move it. So now we're moving further away. And now we're moving closer, all right? So when you get something close and you want to be precise and have it line up, perfectly, you can just kind of inch it right where you want it. You can see we've just gone into the box a little bit there. We'll pull it back a little bit. You don't need to touch the height because it's perfect. 100 is the right setting here. Okay, that's going to be perfectly on the ground. All right, and that's an important thing to just remember is that for the height, if you have it at 100, it'll line up right with the ground. And then we'll just play with the width a little bit. Go. Next. You can see that we've taken our block now. Still not quite flush, so we will go back in, highlight this again, go to movement, go to the X. Oh, of course. There we go. And now we are, I'd call that pretty flush. I mean, maybe if we're being a stickler, we could open this back up and play with the Z a little bit. There. Deselect it so I don't drag it around the screen again. Maybe, now I'm just being a perfectionist. But maybe just drag it just a hair over. Now we're perfectly flush. So we'll go over to this other block and we'll do the same thing. And again, this is just helpful, I think, if you're going to be lining things up and you can't quite get it the way you want. Sometimes it's going to matter to you. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you just want it to look continuous, so you place the blocks inside of each other. That's fine. I just found that this was like a pretty good way. Make sure everything's lined up. And that way, because sometimes you grab one of these and you just try and like move it in, and it's just not going to like be exactly where you want to put it. Let's say we build a ramp, okay? So we'll go to options, objects, blocks, now ramps, okay? And we want to build a ramp. And I think this is where this really comes in handy. Let's just place this over here on the ground. And then we'll duplicate it. There we go. We'll duplicate it, drop it to the ground. We really want these to line up. And that looks pretty good, but obviously we've got some spacing. So we'll open the tools menu back up, go to the movement. You can see now our movement height has changed, okay? First thing we will do, kind of move this back right into place so that it's flush. We will play with the height a little bit. And you can get as precise or imprecise with this as you want. And now we've got a pretty clean lined up ramp, okay? So the final thing I want to show you today is how to make a railing for this, all right? So go under objects again, we'll go railings, use railing 4 just because that's the length of this. Bring it over to the edge, kind of close. We'll drop it down. We actually didn't do a terrible job. We're obviously a little bit off, okay? And we could use the same technique to line this up with the tools, movement. Then we could movement snap it. Height's fine. Just want it to move to the edge. Okay. I'd say I'm mostly happy with this location. All right, now the big thing is we can use the big keys, okay? So we can use the key, and then you see for me it's 3. We can rotate the Z, and we can kind of take it to where we want. It's very hard to get this to line up, okay? It's not going to be flush. So we'll get it close. Okay. We'll open up our tools, and instead of going to movement this time, actually we'll go to movement first so we can drop this down just a hair. So then when we've got it kind of where we want it lined up, instead of going and using the rotate Z to get it to drop or move where we want it, we'll open up our tools menu. Instead of going over to movement, go to rotation. Now, if you just use the arrows on this, you're going to notice get those same imprecise movements, okay? At least with the initial setting. What we want to make sure we're doing is rotate snapping it just by 1, okay? So see this rotation snap? We just want to move this to 1, and then we can inch it exactly where we want it. Okay, so when it lines up, that looks good, but obviously we can check it later. We'll go back to the movement key, and then we'll just drop it down. We're sitting pretty good. Cool. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.